it's kind of crazy to me how normalized in the last 5 years that layoffs have become. Like, it's not like a normal thing. That's not like supposed to just be a normal part of a business where like every 6 months they're just like, hey, we're going through another round of layoffs. And you're just like, all right, is this business failing? And they're just like, nah, we're doing great. It's like crazy to me, the amount, like pretty much every business is having layoffs or has had layoffs recently. That's not supposed to be the way that it is. Like, and I feel like we all just at this point have gotten to the point where we're just like, oh yeah, layoffs. It's not normal. And it's really sad to me how there's just absolutely no human utility left. It's like they go through these layoffs and it's literally the same as them just deleting numbers off of a spreadsheet. Like they feel like nothing. They can't even have honest conversations with you because they're so concerned about like the HR and PR and legal aspect of it that like you try to go into these conversations and be like, all right, can you just tell me what the hell's going on? And they're just like, beep boop, HR jargon. Like, it's not, this isn't the way that business is supposed to work.
It should be criminal how low the pay has gone due to mass layoffs. The fact that like legacy big media companies are offering $50K for jobs that would have paid that much 10 years ago. In New York, almost every job I'm getting an interview for is like $17 an hour. It's like project manager roles. This is insane. It should be criminal.
Well, I finally got the email and I did not get the job. They are moving on with the other candidates and I just am like, universe, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? You know, just like so hard to understand what direction to go, you know?
Friendly reminder, no job is safe in 2025. It's not just tech jobs that are getting slashed. There's lots of other industries that are currently cutting. The maker of Ozempic, Novo Nordisk, just slashed 9,000 jobs. They are obviously in pharmaceutical manufacturing, and they're cutting jobs to increase efficiency. They have jobs based everywhere, including Indianapolis, but they're also global. I've been saying this for a while. If you're working at a large company with thousands and thousands of employees, you are at high risk of losing your job. And it's not just companies that aren't doing well. In fact, a lot of companies that are doing really, really well with their stock prices are more likely to cut people because it increases and further increases their stock price. So my advice to anyone in 2025, particularly office workers at large companies, is to get your resume together, start putting together all the data that you have right now, because you have access to that data before it's too late and before you get cut off. Start getting your LinkedIn prepared, start networking, start building relationships, because in 2025, there is literally no job that is safe.
Jobs are being taken away as 4,000 people are being laid off. They're saying that AI is doing most of their work. Now, people, this is a company, Salesforce, that's in San Francisco, cloud-based software company that has applications focused on sales, customer service, marketing, and what else, right? So Salesforce has over 76,000 employees globally and operates in 92 cities worldwide. It is the tallest building in San Francisco and actually has a huge water recycling system that. Now, the only question remains is that do you really think this is AI or, is it both? Leave me a comment below on what you think is going on.
And the job market right now is being compared to the pandemic. What I want to show you here is MGM Studio in Las Vegas, which is the largest employer in the casinos, quietly laying off another 800 middle managers this week. Yes, this is the second round of layoffs. If you did not know, Las Vegas is double digits negative for tourism. Economists are saying that a recession is coming. People are staying unemployed longer. Unemployment is rising. Inflation is up. And by the way, unemployment checks are not keeping up with inflation. There's certainly nothing to keep you going long. It's layoff time, ladies and gentlemen. This is all self-inflicted, all 100% self-inflicted, and it is due to really bad economic policy. He has gone bankrupt 6 times. Is this going to be number 7? Will we ever recover from this administration? Just remember, Republicans did that. Boost your comment, drop a comment below.
He vowed to impose a 200% tariff on John Deere's imports if the company continues with its plan to move some of its production to Mexico.
Are costing them plenty. On Thursday, John Deere reported third quarter earnings that beat Wall Street estimates. However, the agricultural machinery giant says it took a $200 million hit from global tariffs in the quarter. Layoffs of nearly 2,000 employees in Iowa helped drive those earnings.
John Deere is collapsing. Once celebrated as the very soul of rural America, the company has now become the symbol of decline. Its factories shutting down, its workers cast aside, and the small towns that depended on it left in ruin. Since 2015, more than 4,500 jobs have been cut, with hundreds of workers in Iowa alone pushed into unemployment this year. In East Moline, Illinois, and Waterloo, Iowa, the story repeats itself. Assembly lines gone dark, families forced to pack up, and communities watching the backbone of their local economies crumble. For many, the silence of the shuttered plants feels louder than the machines ever were. And as images of jobless workers flooding the streets in protest spread across the nation, one question hangs in the air. How did the proud green and yellow emblem of American farming turn into a reminder of betrayal and broken trust? Before we dive in, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content matters. And the damage doesn't stop at the farm gate. What begins in the field spreads quickly into the towns that depend on them, hollowing out a way of life that once defined the American heartland. More than half of small farms have disappeared over the past 4 decades, leaving behind shuttered barns, boarded-up shops, and main streets that no longer hum with the rhythm of community. When John Deere downsizes a factory, it doesn't just mean fewer tractors on the line. It means a whole town losing its lifeblood. Jobs vanish, local diners close, schools cut programs, and families are forced to move away. The Peterson Institute warns that tariffs alone could add as much as $2,600 per year to the average household's cost of living, a figure that for many rural families is the difference between staying afloat and slipping under. And then, nature strikes with equal cruelty. The Midwest reels from drought, California burns under relentless wildfires, and the South floods in waves that erase homes and harvests alike. For rural America, it feels less like a season of hardship and more like a cycle of despair. If the land can no longer sustain them and the factories no longer employ them, what future is left for these communities? If you've made it this far, consider subscribing. It's how we keep uncovering what others won't say. But the unraveling of rural America isn't only about farms and weather. It's also about the collapse of the very institutions that once anchored these communities. Nowhere is that more visible than in John Deere. For generations, the green and yellow logo stood as a badge of pride across the heartland, a symbol of American ingenuity and rural resilience. Today, it has become something far darker, a reminder of jobs lost, factories hollowed out, and promises broken. Since 2015, more than 4,500 positions have been erased, with nearly 200 workers in Iowa losing their livelihoods in just the past year. Plans to shift production to Ramos, Mexico have only deepened the anger, fueling resentment among those who see their futures traded away for lower costs abroad. At Harvester Works in Illinois and in Waterloo, Iowa, the numbers are not abstract. They are hundreds of families suddenly without paychecks, neighborhoods stripped of stability, and towns watching their foundations crack. Anger has spilled into the streets, where worker protests have transformed John Deere from a symbol of the American countryside into what many now call a betrayer of rural America.
35% of Google managers are gone. Guess micromanagement wasn't scalable. So at the recent town hall, guys, Google has announced that it is going to eliminate 35% of its middle management teams. And this brings up the discussion that all of us need to have about how many people can one person effectively manage. Now, I've been managing people since I had a full head of hair and it wasn't white. And I'll tell you that through all of my years, my opinion is that you can't manage more than 12 people effectively. 10 to 12 people is all really one person can handle. Now, you can have 120 people reporting to one person with several managers underneath them, but each individual manager all the way up in the chain should never have more than a dozen reporting to them. Why? Well, the truth is that first of all, you can't connect and maintain good relationships with more than a dozen people at a time. I've had up to 16 before, and that was too many. It was very difficult to manage. I kept missing stuff that I'd been able to catch easier if I had less folks. And the other part of it is that I'll age myself a little bit more here with this comment. There's an old expression called nipping things in the bud, meaning that if you start to see someone slip a little bit and you can catch it right away, you can usually turn them around and fix it with them if you can get on it soon enough. But if you can't, then things will start to slip to a point where people then get into the point of having write-ups, having to be counseled on stuff, having to eventually be terminated, all of that. So really, if you only have a dozen people underneath you, it's very easy to be able to check in with everybody every day, make sure everybody's doing good. Notice little differences, like if somebody might be having a hard time in their personal life, if somebody starts showing up late. You know, what happens with a lot of managers, guys, is they wait then until the person has 3 or 4 lates, and then all of a sudden they're writing them up, and they never sat down to have a conversation and said, Bob, hey, I know that you always work really hard for us. You usually have terrific attendance, and I noticed that you've been late a couple of days in the last 2 weeks. I just want to see, is everything okay at home? Everything going all right? And what you might find out is like his car broke down and he's having to Uber in and he can't always get a reliable, ride to work. And now have you waited till 3 or 4 times for that and then just wrote him up and been like, oh, he's being irresponsible? You never would have been able to form the kind of good relationship that you should have with your people as a manager to be able to catch that stuff by just asking a question when it was early enough. Not only that, but let's say you do a weekly team meeting every Monday at 10. Everybody gets on Google Meet, Zoom, Teams, whatever you have, or in person if you're in person. Just goes through everybody's weekends, talks about what they had last week, this week. Take a half hour just to get a sense of the team every week, like every single manager should be doing. You can't do that with more than a dozen people effectively. So I'll tell you that I think 12 people is the most people that one person should manage. But how many do you think anybody can effectively manage at this point? And do you think Google getting rid of so many managers at once, laying off 35% of their management staff, is actually going to be effective? Because I would say maybe 10 to 15% would be effective if they still have no more than 12 people per manager. But if you're going to say because it's a tech company that can go up to maybe 15 or something because of more automation, more AI, or maybe their jobs are just more technical, maybe that can work, but I don't think it works far beyond that. But what do you guys think? How many people can one person effectively manage?
Here's how layoffs are likely to evolve in the AI era and what actually happens on layoff day. This is part 2. So some companies still use old school rankings to decide who stays and who goes. And if your business unit isn't performing, you're also automatically more vulnerable. But going forward, due to AI, I expect there will be a new kind of ranking, white collar versus silver collar. Silver collar workers are those who have fully adopted AI to boost their output, whereas white collar workers are slower to adapt and are therefore at higher risk. They're not as productive. And by the way, it's not always your manager who's ranking you. Sometimes it's their manager or their manager. And that's to avoid productivity disruptions to the team. So all of these rankings are fed into the layoff list, and then when layoff day comes, the C-suite, HR, PR work to make it as fast and controlled as possible. That doesn't always happen. But the notification process has also changed. It used to be you'd be notified one-on-one. Now that is typically done in batches. So layoff survivors feel immediately safe, like I wasn't in that meeting, I must be safe. After that, your computer and access goes dark within minutes, so you can't pull files or cause damage. If that feels harsh, it is. You are disappeared. It's horrible. After that, you wait for an HR email with instructions about severance and benefits, hopefully. If you want to know what typically happens after that, comment. I can do a part 3.
This month has been brutal for American workers, with layoffs sweeping across industries and major corporations like MGM Resorts, Google, Novo Nordisk, John Deere, ANZ, Salesforce, and more cutting hundreds, if not thousands of jobs. But here's the catch. While regular Americans are left scrambling, these same corporations still rake in billions, and their executives continue cashing bonuses. For years, MAGA politicians and corporate elites promised jobs, growth, and America first. Instead, What we're seeing is proof that their version of the economy is nothing but a FAFO economy, where the workers always lose. In this video, we dug into the biggest layoffs, the hypocrisy of corporate America, and why some people are now saying, this is exactly what happens when you let billionaires and MAGA-run politics run the show. So here's where we're at. Google, John Deere, MGM Resorts, Novo Nordisk, ANZ, Salesforce, and others / hundreds of jobs, while their top brass still walk away richer than ever. For all the talk about jobs, stability, and opportunity, what we're really seeing is corporate America and MAGA politics doing what they do best, FAFO with people's lives. If you're tired of this endless cycle of greed and broken promises, make sure you hit like and subscribe to the Progressive Democracy. This is where we expose the lies, highlight the hypocrisy, and remind folks why accountability matters. Thanks for watching, and remember, democracy only works if you do. Just a quick note, full credit goes to the original creators of these videos. Enjoy your day. See you on the next one.